Hello, everyone. So, today we're going to talk about the roots of democracy. So, we're going to talk a lot about ancient Greek and Roman democracy and how it influenced modern democracy in both the United States and around the world. So, our goals for today's class are to have a strong understanding of what democracy is as a form of government. So, what are its ideals, its values? What does it attempt to achieve as a form of government? We're going to try to understand the ways ancient Greek and Roman democratic systems contributed to modern democracies, with many of those elements still in effect today. And we're also going to critically think about the best way to ensure that people's voices are heard in government. So, what are the principles of government that best promote people's voices being heard? And we're actually going to have a chance to create our own democracies where we use some of the ideas that we learn about today to make governments where people's voices are really heard. So we're going to begin with a do now brainstorm. So I want you to think about, what is democracy? Have you heard this word before? What does democracy mean to you? Does it mean having a voice in government, having the ability to speak your mind? What does it take to make a society democratic? Do you need elections, free speech? What are the aspects of societies that are democratic? And what makes a society undemocratic? So think about countries where democracy isn't widely practiced. What about those societies make them undemocratic? So take some time to write your ideas down in your notebook, and we'll come back and we'll discuss what you think as a class. So excellent. So now that we have a strong idea about what democracy is, we're going to talk about the first ever democracy in the world, which was in ancient Greece. So democracy started in 507 BC in Athens, Greece, and it comes from an ancient Greek word, demokratia, which stands for demos, which means people, and kratos, which means power. So democracy means a system of government where people have the power. And this is an interesting sort of thing about language and like ancient Greek words, is whenever you see like ocracy, that means power. So a plutocracy is a government where the wealthy have power. And an autocracy is a government where one person has power. So whenever you see ocracy, you know that's a system of government. It's talking about which people have power. What's interesting about ancient Greece is that political participation was very limited. So although it was a democracy, not everyone had an equal voice. So only male citizens were allowed to vote. Women couldn't participate, and neither could slaves, which made up a significant portion of the population in ancient Greece. Overall, only 18% of people living in Athens could vote. So although this was a step forward in terms of people having power, it wasn't a system where everyone's voice was valued. So I want you to think about, what other eras of history have people been excluded from the political process? Think about America. In America, originally, did all people have the right to vote, or was it limited? And also think about, is this still a problem today? Are there people who are excluded from having a voice in government? Do some people have more of a say than other people? So, the Athenian democracies had three branches of government. So, this is very similar in a lot of ways to American government. So, in the United States, we have three branches as well. We have the Congress, which is the group of people who make the laws. We have the president and the executive branch, which is the branch that enforces the law. We have the Supreme Court, which is the branch of government that interprets the law. So Athenian democracy also has three. So the first branch is called the ecclesia. And the ecclesia is the law-making body the lawmaking branch. In a lot of ways, it's similar to the American Congress. But in a lot of ways, it's very different. So while in America, we have representatives who we vote for and make decisions for us, in the ecclesia, it was a direct democracy. This meant that any citizen could attend a meeting and vote. So any regular person, you or me or anyone, could just go to the meeting and vote. We didn't have to go through a representative. We didn't have to vote for someone else to make the laws for us. People actually could make the laws themselves, which is kind of interesting. And the ecclesia met 40 times a year, and they made decisions about laws, about war, about foreign policy, how they deal with other governments. The second branch was called the bull. And this branch was also interesting because it was chosen by lottery. So instead of voting for people in the bull, they just sort of picked at random. And it was 50 from each Athenian tribe, and they met every day. And they sort of supervised government workers, they met with foreign representatives, and they decided what issues the first branch, the ecclesia, voted on. But really anyone could be in the bull as well, because they were chosen by lottery as opposed to election. And the third one is called the dicasteria, which is kind of similar to our judicial system. So they had 500 jurors who decided cases, enforced justice, and they also were chosen randomly. Another interesting aspect of the legal system of Athens was that they didn't have any police. Athenians would bring cases to court themselves. So all of this is pretty interesting. So there's some ways that it's similar to American democracy in that there are three branches, and other ways that it's very different in that instead of voting for representatives, you sort of directly participated yourself, whether it be through being randomly chosen by lottery or by just attending a meeting whenever you wanted to. And so I just want to have you think about this. Like, in what ways do you think Athenian democracy was good? In what ways did it work? And in what ways might it not have worked? Excellent. So we're now going to have a silent discussion about Athenian democracy. So you're going to break up into groups of 4 and choose one of the following questions for your silent discussion. So you can choose either the first one, how is Athenian democracy similar to American democracy and how is it different? The second, what aspects of Athenian democracy appeal to you and what aspects don't? And you could also choose the third. What are some of the positive aspects of direct democracy? What are some of the drawbacks? So what you'll do is in your group, you'll write your discussion question on top of a piece of paper, and you'll each take turns responding to the question and to each other. So for example, one person will write their opinion, and then you'll pass it to the next person, and they'll write a reply to you. And that way you sort of have this discussion on this piece of paper. Excellent. And then once you guys are done after 5 minutes, we'll come back and we'll discuss what you thought. What are some of the good things about direct democracy? What are some of the ways where it might be difficult? And we'll see what you come up with. Excellent. So in addition to Athenian democracy, there was the Roman Republic. So the Roman Republic was different from Athenian democracy because it wasn't direct, it was representative. So instead of being chosen at random by a lottery or just going to the meetings and making the laws yourself, people chose representatives. So in a lot of ways, this is similar to American democracy. We don't directly go and vote on every single law. We choose other people to represent us and make the laws for us. So in the Roman Republic, they had a Senate where citizens elected people to represent them. And they had 2 consuls. And the consuls were kind of like the president in our system. And if there was ever an emergency, like a time of war or a crisis, they would choose a dictator and they would give that person all of the power to make decisions really quickly. And similar to Athenian democracy, there was political hierarchy. So only male citizens could vote, and for a long time, only patricians, or people from the wealthy class, could be in the Senate. So it's similar to ancient Greece in that not everyone has an equal say. Some people get to vote, some people get to be in government, other people don't. Another important idea in the Roman Republic was equality under law. So they had this document called the 12 Tablets, and these were laws that were written down and they applied to everyone equally. So it didn't matter if you were a rich person or if you were poor, the law was the law and everyone had to follow it, which was a big step forward in the development of democracy. Excellent. So, in a way similar to what you did in your silent discussion, we're going to have a Socratic discussion about the Roman Republic. So, think about this. Which form of government appeals to you more? The direct democracy of ancient Greece, where people could directly make laws themselves, or the representative government of ancient Rome, where people chose representatives to make laws for them? Which system do you think is more fair? Which system do you think is more efficient? Excellent. And I want you to think about in what ways was the Roman Republic similar or different to American democracy? So in some ways it was very similar because there were representatives, there was a Senate, there was like something similar to a president and vice president, but in other ways it was very different. We don't have a dictator that is appointed in times of crisis. Another thing to think about is, how do you feel about this idea of appointing a dictator in times of crisis? Do you think that it's a good thing and that it speeds up the process of making decisions? Or do you think it could lead to someone taking too much power for themselves? So first, I'd like you to get into small groups and discuss these ideas in your group of 4. And then we're going to come back and we'll discuss these concepts as a class. Excellent. So here's some of the important ideas that we touched upon today. So one is the idea of representation in government. So we have 2 options that we talked about. Direct democracy, where the people themselves make the laws, or a republic, where people vote for a representative to make laws for them. Another important idea we talked about was the idea of whether people have an equal say. In both ancient Greece and ancient Rome, some people could participate in the government and vote, and some people couldn't. And finally, equality before law, which is the idea that a set of laws apply to everyone equally. It doesn't matter if you're rich, if you're poor, privileged or not privileged. The law, ideally, is something that applies equally to everyone. So we're going to finish up with a gallery walk activity where you guys are going to create your own democracy. So in your groups of 4, I'll give each of you poster paper and some colored pencils, and you're going to create your own democratic countries. So you can create a flag for your country and you can create a map, anything sort of creative or colorful that you want to do. And I want you to think about these questions. So, how are you going to ensure that people are represented in your government? Are you going to have a direct democracy like ancient Greece, where people vote themselves on laws and themselves go to meetings? Or are you going to have representatives in a way similar to ancient Rome? What is the name of your country going to be? How are you going to ensure that justice is served? Are you going to have courts? Are you going to have police? Are you going to have people bring their own cases to court similar to in ancient Greece? What rights will people have? Will you have the right to free speech? Will you have the right to protest? Will you have the right to health care, the right to food? What are the basic things that government is going to provide to people? And I'd like you to also think about and write about how your democracy compares to the ideas that we explored in class. Is your democracy similar to ancient Greece? Is it similar to ancient Rome? And after you guys create your countries, we're going to put your posters up in different parts of the classroom, and we'll have a gallery walk. So you'll be able to walk around and write down comments on Post-its and have discussions about each person's democratic project. So I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Excellent. So your posters all look really amazing, and your countries all look really interesting with a lot of cool democratic ideas and rights. So now we're going to have a chance to do the second part of our gallery walk. So everyone will post their poster to the wall, and we'll walk around and take a look at each other's posters. So at each poster, there will be a stack of Post-its. And so if you feel so inclined, write a question or a comment on each group's form of government. So you can ask a question about something. So, for example, why did you choose to give people the right to health care? You can give a comment about something you agreed with or disagreed with. So you could say something like, oh, I disagreed with your decision to not have a police force. How would the law be enforced then? But always be sure to be respectful in your comments and to disagree in a healthy and constructive way. Excellent. And we'll come back as a class once you're done checking out each other's posters for about 10 minutes. Excellent job, everyone. Very good today with the gallery walk. So we're going to finish up with an exit ticket and a reflection. So on a piece of paper, as you leave class, just write a few sentences about which form of representation you think more successfully incorporates people's voices into government. Are you a fan of direct democracy or representative democracy? And why do you think that the one you choose is the best version? Excellent. I'll see you guys next class, and just give me these exit ticket reflections on the way out. Very good.